Hi there grade 11s and welcome to the second and the final video on the PowerPoint on Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. In the previous video we covered Hitler's rise to power, Hitler and the media, and Nazi military organizations. In this video we will be covering the final three headings: how Hitler applied eugenics, the Holocaust and its consequences, and finally resistance movements. The first section we are doing in this video is how Hitler applied eugenics. If you don't know what eugenics is, it is the encouraging of positive breeding, so that is breeding of people with desirable traits, and the discouraging of negative breeding, so that would be breeding of people with inferior qualities, or what is deemed inferior. So if you look at the background of the slide, you will see that image that is representative of human DNA. Now, you know that you cannot change your DNA. There are certain things about you that you just inherited from your parents. And in this case, or this scenario, we are specifically talking about physical characteristics. What I mean by that: skin color, hair texture, eye color. And usually these are things that are indicative of race. Different races have different hair textures. Different races have different eye color variations. Different races have different skin colors. And obviously we all know where this was coming from. It was coming from these pseudoscientific ideas on race. These would be like your eugenics, your social Darwinism, and your scientific racism. But all in all, the main takeaway is that these were pseudosciences. That means that they were not real, they were not factual, they were not proven or backed up by any science whatsoever. And so what? Millions of people died for something that was not even real, for something that was completely concocted. In the next slide, you can see a combination of images. These were registration photos that were taken of every single inmate. And I say inmate because they were pretty much prisoners at Auschwitz. So I'm not sure about the other concentration camps, but I know that at Auschwitz, they would take 3 photos of you as soon as you entered. And you can even see in the first image, in these first images, they're literally holding your head up with a stick or a rod or something, which is so almost dehumanizing. Putting you on display, telling you keep your head up straight, I'm assuming. And look at that little girl. Doesn't she look so scared? These people were obviously terrified. Many of them, many of the faces that you see here, many of them would have been sent into the gas chambers, would have been shot, died of starvation, of illness, lack of sanitation and hygiene. It's extremely sad and cruel what happened in Germany. The first heading we are doing in this section is the Aryan obsession. It was this obsession that the Nazis had and that Hitler had with the Aryan race. They believed that they were descendants of this strong, wonderful, powerful, ancient European race, as they called it, known as the Aryans, and that they wanted to strive for racial purity of the Aryan race, the true German, a pure-blooded German. Now, what would this look like? This would look like blue eyes, blonde hair, tall, muscular. So that's what the Aryan race is, and when we're talking about the Aryans, that is what we are speaking about, just so that you have that in your brain. The Nazi Party promoted the idea of a strong Aryan community. They did this through propaganda. They called this community the Volksgemeinschaft. I'm assuming I'm saying that wrong, but let's just go with that. That would be like this wonderful community, folk, and we'll learn about this in Afrikaner nationalism as well. Folk refers to people, to folk. It's this community. And if you think about gemeenskap, that is community, and it's there, literally. German and Afrikaans are very similar. Then we move on to the duties of the Aryan race. Now, The Aryan race wasn't just this wonderful race that had to be glorified and exalted. They were seen to have responsibilities and duties to the German nation. So these duties included working for the good of the nation, having many children, reproducing more blonde, blue-eyed babies. We want as many Aryans as possible. Women were to stay at home and raise children. The aim was to create a strong, racially pure German population. Now, when we're talking about racially pure or racial purity, I want you to think of crossbreeding flowers. If I have a pink flower and I have a blue flower and I want to crossbreed the two, the outcome will likely be a purple flower. But what if I'm like, you know what? I actually don't like that I mixed this blue flower with the pink flower. I like the blue more than I like the purple. You're going to mix that purple flower with another blue flower, and then it will come out maybe slightly less purple and more blue. It'll be more blue and more blue the more you do that, until you will eventually get a blue flower. You kind of try to weed out all the undesirable traits until eventually all you are left with is this wonderful, strong, pure German race. Or in the case of the flower, a blue flower. If you have a look at the images on the side, you can see the propaganda that was used to promote and to glorify the Aryan race. You can see if you look at the poster at the bottom there, that's a poster of an Aryan man. He's in like a working uniform, so he's contributing to the country, and he's lifting two whole grown men on his shoulders on a plank. Look at me, look at my hair, look at my arms. I'm strong, powerful Aryan man. The next heading we are looking at is negative eugenics. Now, there is a concept known as positive breeding and a concept known as negative breeding. Positive breeding would refer to the intentional and strategic breeding of positive and desirable traits within a species. If you are looking for an example of positive breeding, we can look at cows and farm owners. Certain cow breeds have been genetically engineered to produce larger amounts of milk so that they are more desirable to farm owners, and so that farm owners can purchase them and produce larger amounts of milk than they would with a different breed of cow. Therefore, positive breeding was used during the genetic modification and engineering of that specific breed of cow. Negative breeding is the exact same process. However, instead of trying to breed a positive trait, the process focuses on breeding out a negative and undesirable trait. However, I do just want to draw your attention to the images on the side, because I want you to remember we're not speaking about cows, we're not speaking about farm animals, we are speaking about real people. Those boys at the bottom there, victims of the Holocaust. The man in the image next to them, victim of the Holocaust. If you look at the image on top of them, that's even more disturbing. If you don't know what that is a cremation oven. You get cremated after you die, and it looks like there are multiple. I don't know if there's just one person in each of them. It looks like there's more than one. Right. The mentally and physically disabled were considered genetically inferior. Many of them were forcibly sterilized. That means that they had no choice to go through a surgery so that they cannot have kids anymore. Many were also locked in institutions and used in cruel medical experiments. I'm sure every single one of you knows somebody who is disabled. There are many cases of people with disabilities with families that love them. Now imagine going from a warm, loving home to an institution where you're treated as if you're not even a human being. 70 to 93,000 mentally ill patients were killed in the Nazi euthanasia campaign. Don't know what euthanasia is? If you've ever had a dog that was very, very, very sick, you know that there's the option to either let them suffer, or you can put them down and they don't have to suffer anymore. That is called euthanasia. When you're referring to animals who are sick and suffering, it's a way to give them hope and an escape. When we talk about euthanasia, we're not supposed to be talking about human beings because that does not apply to human beings. The Nazis used the word euthanasia as a way to mislead the German people. When you euthanize a human being, you are not putting them out of their misery or doing them a favor. You are committing murder. Nazi leaders used ideas of social Darwinism to justify mass murder. The next heading we are doing is which groups were targeted by the Nazis. This is a nice and easy slide. It's really just a list more than it is information you need to understand. Political opponents, those would be like the communists, the socialists, or any person that spoke out against the Nazis, any kind of activist. We also have Black people and mixed race people, LGBTQIA plus members, Slavic people, so that would be like Russians. We have mentally ill people, mentally and physically disabled people, criminals, unemployed people, Roma and Sinti, those would be like the Gypsies, and Jewish people. I know a bunch of people that would tick some of these boxes. And I'm sure you do too. I'm just trying to show you these were normal, ordinary, real people. We are now doing the final slide of this section, eugenics and the Holocaust. The Holocaust was the mass murder of 6 million Jews and millions of others by the Nazis. So the Holocaust isn't just referring to the Jews. It's not just referring to the concentration camps. It's not referring to one section of anything. It's quite literally that entire period, that mass murder of all those people, those different groups of people. The Nazis believed that undesirables, people that did not fit their Aryan master race, they believed that undesirables posed a threat to the German nation. Oh, please. Sorry. Nazis used eugenics to justify a genocide. Where do we see a genocide today? Palestine. The Holocaust is considered one of the worst crimes against humanity in history. We are now starting a new section, the Holocaust and its consequences. This is the second section out of the 3 that we are doing today. If you look at the background of the slide, you will see a lot of Jewish themed artwork. So we have the Star of David falling everywhere, very scattered all over the place. And then we have those Jewish candles. It's the 9 stem. That would mean that that is the Hanukkah. Candles are seen as the presence of God. So they have a real spiritual meaning. This next slide really breaks my heart. It is an image of a starving, sick boy being carried and rescued finally by men after being discovered at a concentration camp. Now, this would have been taken during the liberation era after Nazi Germany, after the Holocaust. When we talk about liberation era, in simple terms, the time of freedom, the period of freedom, this would be when all these concentration camps were being discovered and these soldiers were just horrified. Why are there camps with hundreds of thousands of starving, dying, sick people? The first heading we are doing in this section is called Jewish persecution. If you don't know what persecution is, it is the deliberate mistreatment and discrimination against a particular group by another group. Nazi persecution of the Jews became more severe over time. So it didn't start off as this horrible thing. It started off small and then it snowballed. And I want you to then think back to the frog in the pot theory and think about how over time, something that starts off small can spiral into something that you don't even recognize, something that you're afraid of. Jews were banned from certain public places. Jews were forced to wear the Star of David to be easily identified. Jewish shops and businesses were boycotted and terrorized. When I say terrorized, I mean vandalized. You see there in brackets Kristallnacht 1938. I want you to look at the picture at the top in the corner. You see all those broken windows. That is from Kristallnacht. Kristallnacht translates to the night of broken glass. People went to Jewish stores, broke in, vandalized everything, broke their windows, broke down their doors, knocked over everything on their shelves. Imagine how heartbroken those shop owners would have been the next day. Imagine your hard work. That's your life. That's how you put food on the table. Anyways, the Nuremberg Laws, 1935. This stripped Jews of their rights to vote and to marry pure-blooded Germans. Now we get to the height of the Holocaust. This is the moment, the decision that turned the Nazi party into a killing machine. The final solution was the Nazi plan to murder all Jewish people in Europe. Now, solution to what? The Jewish question. What is the Jewish question? What are we going to do with the Jews? How are we going to get rid of them? What is our plan? And they came up with the final solution. It was Hitler's answer to the Jewish question, which is what to do with the Jews. Jews were taken to overcrowded ghettos, where they were held temporarily. From there, they were then moved in large numbers to concentration camps. 6 million Jews died during the Holocaust. Many were sent to the gas chambers. Others were starved or died of disease. The final solution is seen as one of the worst crimes against humanity in history. Now we get to the consequences. The final heading in this section, the Nuremberg trials. In May of 1945, the Soviets invaded Germany and discovered all the camps. Remember that picture that I showed you at the beginning of that boy that was being held by all his rescuers? They found him. They had discovered that camp. Hitler committed suicide, obviously, and Germany surrendered. So what, it was all for nothing. For a leader who can't even stick around and defend what he did, who'd rather leave his country and abandon it so that he doesn't have to face the consequences, which proves that he knew that what he did was wrong. And what about all the men that followed Hitler's every order? It was decided that Nazi leaders would be sentenced for their crimes during international trials held in Nuremberg. If you look at the side images, you can see these trials happening. You can see there's a man with headphones. He's speaking into a microphone. Everybody else is in the courtroom listening to him. At the top, there's a bunch of men there as well, probably all waiting to be heard and to go on trial and to be questioned. Nazi leaders, guards, doctors, and military officers were charged with crimes against humanity and war crimes. Punishments included death and prison, so some were imprisoned, others were sentenced to death. Their crimes were too severe. This is an example of retributive justice. You get two different kinds. You get retributive justice. I'm going to get you back for what you did to me. You will pay for your actions. And then you get a different kind of justice, which is known as restorative justice. That you will learn about next year in Matric when you do the Truth and Reconciliation Commission. This is an example, Nuremberg trials, of retributive justice. And now we are finally at the last section of this PowerPoint slide. Yay! Do you see the hands in the artwork? They're all cheering, because we're all happy it's over now. In all seriousness, no, these hands are more meant to symbolize cheering and hope and freedom, because we're now entering what was called and what is known as the Liberation Era, the time of freedom. We first have the White Rose Resistance Group. The White Rose Movement, it was a student resistant movement at Munich University. So it was led by university students. These are people ranging from about 20 years old, 19 maybe, up to about 24. They distributed pamphlets criticizing Hitler and the war. So what ended up happening is the group was arrested and executed for opposing the Nazis. Their leaders included Sophie Scholl and Hans Scholl. You can see them in the images at the top, but then when you look at the bottom image, you can see their registration photos. So we know they've just entered a concentration camp. They are going to die. The next heading we are doing is resistance from church leaders. Some church leaders publicly criticized Nazi policies. Remember in a previous slide we spoke about how Hitler could not control the church. He tried, but he couldn't. The following church leaders spoke out against the Nazis. We have Pastor Martin Niemöller. He is at the top there with the glasses, looking all fancy and spiffy. We have Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and he is at the bottom, also in the glasses, looking all fabulous there. I think he's in a field, I don't know. Anyways, those two sent to concentration camps. Bishop Clemens von Galen, he's the man there with a big cross and he's like leaning back and he looks all powerful and majestic. He was not sent to a concentration camp, and it's because he was so well respected by many Germans, many Catholics, that he was pretty much untouchable. Hitler knew if he laid a finger on this man, Hitler would lose support. Religious leaders risked their lives resisting Nazi actions. Hell yes. Old white men fighting for rights. Love it. And finally, we are at the very last heading, the very last slide. Rescuers. Yay! Some families hid Jews in their homes, like Anne Frank. One example, the Quaker movement, helped many Jewish children escape Germany. Danish citizens helped many Jews escape to Sweden. Raoul Wallenberg saved thousands of Hungarian Jews by giving them Swedish papers, giving them that option, that opportunity to leave. Oskar Schindler protected about 1,200 Jewish workers using his factory in Poland. There's actually a movie about him. It's called Schindler's List. You should watch it. It is very good. It's amazing how in a time such as the Holocaust, in a period like that where people were getting murdered and starved to death, crammed into tight spaces like they were, I don't know, not even animals. People don't even treat animals like that. For someone to come out with a helping hand to say, I will help you get out of the situation. Imagine that relief. Having gone through so much, knowing there's a world out there where you don't have to live like this, and someone comes and they give you an opportunity to enter that world where you are allowed to exist, where you are allowed to be openly Jewish, Roma and Sinti, Jehovah's Witness, LGBTQIA, to be yourself. I'll tell you now, every human deserves that. Every human being deserves that. In fact, it's the bare minimum. And that concludes our PowerPoint on Nazi Germany and the Holocaust. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you feel informed and a little bit more prepared for your exams. Thank you so much for giving this video your attention. Bye.